Welcome, everybody, to week 11 of the 4 for 4 DFS MVP podcast. I'm your host, John Breslin. You may know me as Scroll Patrol, joined by Neil Orfield and Pat Currain. Davis Maddock on a bye this week, potentially next week as well. Hopefully some good news there. We think we'll hear from Davis.
I'd even say a new season has begun in Davis's life.
Yeah, excellent analogy. But yeah, to the football. So I was so close in the $20 Millie Maker on Sunday that I started walking around the house trying to find champagne. My wife was like out of the house. It was only a few minutes left, and I was in first place. And then the Jahmyr Gibbs 44-yard touchdown vaulted like five people ahead of me. So those things are easier to handle after you've won a Millie Maker, which we can say with Davis. Anyway, but yeah. How are your guys' week 10s?
Terrible, but and I missed that you had a sweat because I start my Sunday Night Football show while the games are still going on, which is the worst. I hate it so much, but it's like you kind of need to do it. So I did not even see that you had a sweat in the Millie Maker. That's awesome to hear. I did not. I played a ton of Quinshon Judkins. That was like my biggest stance of the week, was like Judkins going to smash against this broken up Jets defense, and that went terribly for me. So and a lot of things didn't go well. So yeah, not great for me.
Someone mentioned when we were on the Shipcast that you were in first place, and we're like, okay. So then we but we knew, so we had your lineup pulled up, and I knew you didn't have Gibbs. So when that happened, I was like, oh, that can't have been good.
I was texting with someone that is a Commanders fan at the time, and he was like, "Oh, sorry about the Commanders defense." Yeah, that happens. It was a Davis Mills lineup, and I was like, "Oh, that was not on my radar at all, right?" But he's just super cheap, and it was actually the Parker Washington bring back, right? That's like bringing that, bringing some Davis Mills into my lineup portfolio. So it wasn't something I was proud of, but it was something that happened, and. But we move on to week 11 now, the 11th month of the year.
I played JJ McCarthy on a bunch of good lineups, so I think you should be proud to have not done that and played Davis Mills.
Yeah, but I was so high on McCarthy then throughout the week. Right? So it's just but it's kind of a broken clock, is right, twice a season apparently, and gets a sweat in the Millie Maker. But we're on to week 11, 11 games on the schedule. So I think it's just the regular, I think we have two teams on a bye. But
I think two teams on a bye, and then a London game.
Yeah, but they're
Spain, Madrid.
Yeah, it's Madrid.
Everything's London to me now. Football's broken my brain. Where if it's in Europe, it's London.
Yeah. They're even doing some games in the UK, I think, not in London.
Oh yeah. Well,
but as long as they all
were in Ireland, Dublin, yeah.
But yeah, well, we've got 11 games, like pretty similar spreads, and then we always have a handful of like lower spreads. But we'll start with the game environments. Neil, we'll start with you. Any game environments sticking out to you this weekend?
Yeah, several actually. I think this is a week where it's like one of these games is going to put up a big score. Tampa Bay Buffalo to me stands out, even with the 5.5 point spread. It's one of those games where Josh Allen needs to be pushed, and I think Baker Mayfield just kind of always surprises. Like even in these games where it's like not a great matchup, I think this game has big potential to shoot out. I do think the Bears Vikings game has big potential as well. I still think that JJ McCarthy is not as bad as the general majority thinks, and he's certainly better for fantasy than he looks.
He stinks, dude.
Life. He put up 17 fantasy points last week in a terrible game. He kept what I liked about JJ McCarthy last week is he just kept throwing it up to Justin Jefferson and being like, all right, let's hope that this works out.
Up would be nice. I would take up. He's throwing it at him as hard as he can muster.
Okay. That is also true. But like so close. Jefferson dropped one in the end zone. That would have been over 20 fantasy points. I don't know. I think it's close. And this week we get a great matchup with the Bears. Bengals and Steelers obviously stands out. And then, there's so many. I'll throw out the other two and then get your opinions on your favorites. But San Francisco, Arizona with Brock Purdy back looks pretty good. Seattle, Rams. I think those are the game environments I'm leaning into. I named 5, so I took all of them, but I'll end it there.
5-11. Anything left for Pat? What are your thoughts?
Honestly, I was not as excited about this slate as I was writing it up. Like when I write up the walkthrough, I pick the cover boy. I try really hard to have it come from the 1 p.m. games so that I can start the article with it, and then go chronologically. And I was like, I don't know who I'm picking. I was like, I really hope Bucky Irving plays because he would be just an incredible play, but it does not look like that's happening. So I ended up going with Josh Jacobs because I'm just like, the Packers get to play the way the Packers play, and it'll actually work this week. So that's pretty good, but it's not a game environment that I love, just sort of an offense versus a defense. Probably my favorite game environment of the week is the Bengals and the Steelers. I think the Steelers will put up points here. I think Joe Flacco is pretty well suited to, he's getting the ball out super quickly. I noted that like their pressure rate, the Bengals pressure rate in terms of the pressure they're allowing, went from 31st before Flacco arrived. They're now 13th best. So it's not their offensive line that's gotten better. He's just getting the ball out super quickly, consistently quickly, and it's allowing them to keep him upright. I think that should help against a good Steelers pass rush, but you can pass on the Steelers if you survive the pass rush. So that game is kind of fun as a bet on just a really bad Bengals defense and Flacco being alive. And then I liked some of the late window stuff. San Francisco at Arizona, I like a lot. And then I honestly really like the Chiefs and Broncos in the sense that I think Patrick Mahomes and Rashee Rice are going to be just fine here. I'm not worried about it. Pat Surtain's going to be out. It looks like. I mean, he didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. I didn't see if he's practiced today, but it doesn't look great. And you have the Bills last week double teamed Rice a ton. They really took him away. The Broncos don't really double team. They blitz a lot. And I think that the Rice Mahomes connection should be pretty good. And then you also potentially have Worthy and like one-on-one coverage downfield against not Pat Surtain. So I'm intrigued by him. So and then you do have RJ Harvey is like a semi-cheap running back. So that game is fun. But yeah, the Cardinals and the 49ers is probably my favorite of the late window.
You don't need to feel pressure to like talk up the Chiefs just because Davis isn't here and we like need Patrick Mahomes.
Davis, I love the Chiefs.
Yeah. I do think that there's a handful of good game environments. It is actually shaping up a little bit similar to how I felt about last week, where there's a handful of game environments and it's just difficult to choose between them. I think the one that's actually popping off the page is Arizona and San Francisco. Yeah. But I'm like a little bit wary about it because I think it's popping off the page because like Marvin Harrison got injured. So you're getting these like cheap wide receivers that, it's just so easy to fit in, like Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch and Jacoby Brissett is still like too cheap. And it's like, well, then I can just run that back for Christian McCaffrey. Maybe I like get fancy with like Juwan Jennings or Greg Kittle, but I think it's going to end up over-owned, for the fact that it's still Jacoby Brissett throwing to like Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch. And of course, Trey McBride. But I think the one that I probably like is actually the Pittsburgh Cincinnati, followed by the Minnesota Chicago. And just like the Pittsburgh Cincinnati, the Bengals defense is just so awful. And I think like Trey Hendrickson declared out right before we came on the show. But they played the same matchup in week 7. And these guys put up like tremendous numbers. I think that was the game Jamar Chase had 23 targets, 16 catches on 23 targets for 161 yards. So like, of course, he's popping off the page. You've got the cheap quarterbacks that are just throwing the ball in Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco. You've got, Jalen Warren, Chase Brown. So I think that's my top game environment, but I've become such a believer in like JJ McCarthy that it's like followed up closely for me with the Minnesota Chicago game, just because the Bears defense is also a defense I was writing up that they allow like their top 5 in yards per carry allowed and yards per catch allowed. So as I was writing up like Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson. I think, a handful of good game environments. And then, like there's the individual guys in a good spots. I guess we didn't really like touch on of the higher total games. The one that we didn't touch on is Seattle and the Rams, which I think is a really interesting one because they both have really good scoring defenses, but they both are, I think, top 5 or top 6 in receptions allowed per game. So, and we get paid on receptions just like we get paid on touchdowns, at least as they accumulate throughout the game. So I think that's a game environment we'll want to pay attention to as well with the two top there.
I think that's a game that those top wide receivers should be just fine, especially actually Puka. I think Puka, like, I did a little bit of a deep dive into Seattle, and like the thing that's interesting about Seattle is that they don't blitz. They still generate pressure very quickly, very effectively, but teams are not throwing quickly against them in the same way that we're seeing against the Browns. Like when you play the Browns, you just get the ball out super quick because the Browns aren't good in coverage. they play a lot of man. They're not good in coverage, and teams are just quick throwing, and it's keeping the pressure rate way down. Even though that pass rush is awesome, it's harder to do that against Seattle because they're way more sound in coverage. They're kind of similar to the Packers that way, but Puka is the dude who gets open no matter what. He gets open very quickly. So I think this is a Puka matchup where, and the other thing is like you go look at, okay, the Rams haven't faced any pass rushes this entire year. Like they haven't faced anybody except in the first 3 weeks of the season when they got the Eagles and the Texans were both tied for 7th in quick pressure rate. And Puka Nacua had a 50% targets per route run in both of those games. So like they're like the idea of like, hey, what if we get the ball out quickly to Puka when we actually have to face a pass rush? Like that seems to be their plan. And it's also like it just makes a ton of logical sense. So I could see Puka in a tough matchup here, but just like targets really, really consolidating. They always kind of do, but I'm just not worried about him, even though I'm kind of worried about the Rams offense. I don't love the Rams offense here, but I think Puka will be fine.
Puka, I think multiple games with 25 DraftKings points without scoring a touchdown this season. Like the team might not score, but if they just give up a ton of receptions like to Puka, and it's almost like the flip side with JSN, it might not matter.
I think JSN will be fine as well.
Yeah. But yeah, let's move on to the quarterback position. Pat, we'll start with you. Like, of the game environments, which of the quarterbacks is sticking out to you?
Well, I mean, to Neil's point about the Vikings game environment being kind of interesting. If like you could erase my memory, I would be really excited about JJ McCarthy here. But like sometimes you don't know until you play a guy and you have like a really good lineup that's got a McCarthy Jefferson stack in it. And you have to watch it. And then it's like, oh, I feel like I learned something from McCarthy. Well, he's every ball's a fastball, man. He just like rocketing it in. There's no touch. His success rate's awful. Only Davis Mills has a lower success rate this year. Only Cam Ward is worse in EPA per game. So like the numbers are telling us this guy stinks. And it's like I think the numbers are right. Like he's just not. I don't see a quarterback here that's playing with any kind of nuance, and so it just has me worried. At the same time, Chicago's defense it's awful. It's a really bad defense, and so like I think Davis Mills stinks. Like I still think he stinks, but he was
there's a
really great play last week.
Can't make fun of Davis Mills.
I'm not making fun of him. I'm making fun of me for being overly for caring too much about how good these guys are. When if he's 5,200 in an incredible matchup, I think going back to JJ McCarthy does make some sense. I think he'll be a little bit more popular than last week, which makes me nervous. But I think you have to at least consider him, as painful as it is for me. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is in play here. I like DK Metcalf in this spot. They should be able to tack down field a little bit more. Rodgers is just so not interested in getting hit. But they don't have Trey Hendrickson, and that means they don't have a pass rush. So he should have a little bit more time to throw this week. Brock Purdy, I think, is a really strong play. He's probably my favorite play. Mahomes, I mentioned, I'm not fearful of this Broncos defense. I think he'll be fine. I mean, I think they're very good defense in general, but I'm going to back Patrick Mahomes. Those would probably be my favorites. Joe Flacco, I guess, would be somewhat interesting as well. Josh Allen, I'm a little bit less intrigued by. I was kind of curious where you guys are on him.
I'll actually say like Brock Purdy was the guy that I was gonna wrote down to mention if nobody mentioned it. Like nobody might mention Brock Purdy, but I want to go there. Josh Allen. Sorry, the question was like, where do we stand on Josh Allen?
Yeah.
I guess Neil, do you want to take that and run with it and then go through any quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty in on Josh Allen, just because it's to me, Josh Allen is like, it's not about the matchup for him. It's about is he going to be pushed? Like, does he need to put on his Superman cape? And I think even though there's kind of a widespread in this game, so maybe I'm, trying to IKB it too much rather than just going with like what Vegas is telling me. It just feels like Baker Mayfield in any game that I'm like, yeah, I can't play Baker Mayfield. This is a tough matchup. He's not going to do well. Then he ends up throwing multiple touchdowns and like just looks better than I ever expect him to. So I think at this point, I'm like, Baker Mayfield also kind of matchup independent. Like he can do it against anybody. So I just this could be a game to me that goes off, and if the game goes off, I think Josh Allen could put up 35 plus fantasy points. So I think that this is one of those game environments that doesn't really look that great on paper, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a game that I hate for my best ball bags, but I'll play it in DFS. So I am in on Josh Allen, but it's mostly just because he's projected for single digit ownership and he's only 7,000, and with all of that factored in, the ownership, the price tag, and the potential of the game environment, I think makes me actually like him quite a bit.
I'll note there's some weather concerns for the game, but I think if there's it's a typical Chicago rain, snow, wind mix, like no blizzard or anything. But like if there's a quarterback that's probably like prepared to play in the bad weather, and also that can add stuff with the rushing game, right? What if he just has to like run a lot more than usual?
Yeah.
That's that could be like not pervious to it, but like that he can handle the elements.
Yeah.
My concern is that like I'm starting to think about the Bills like the Packers, where they're just like they insist on getting in their own way. And this is a matchup where you have an elite Bucs run defense, right? Travion Henderson goes for 2 touchdowns against them last week, and they move up in the success rate rankings because those are the only 2 good runs he had all game. They even last week they were awesome against the run, except for a couple plays. And you could see that happen with the Bills, where James Cook is certainly explosive enough to rip off some long runs. However, if you're relying on the run to consistently move the chains against the Bucs, that's just dumb. And I kind of think that the Bills are dumb. Like they're just I don't like the way this offense is designed at all. Like you have Josh Allen, man. Like how are you building your whole thing around, like power football in the run game? Like you also have a passing back. Like James Cook's awesome. He's explosive, but you're not giving him any kind of receiving role, like getting him out in space that way. This is the other thing that just frustrates me about the Bills is that they have a terrible run defense, like straight up bad. And, Ed Oliver's out now. It's not like, I have some sympathy for, the fact that this defense isn't what they designed, but it's not good against the run. If, again, you have Josh Allen, what you could do is put teams in a position where running the ball is not helping their win probability, but instead they're kind of letting these teams hang around. And, I think it's going to cost them wins in the same way we see with the Packers. So I don't know, this like this overly conservative style of football where the other team can be like really run heavy and conservative and still beat you when you have an incredibly efficient quarterback is driving me nuts. It's not just the Bills. I'm kind of like bringing in my Packers frustration and taking it out on the Bills a little bit, but I think that like the Bills could have a really bad game plan this week of attacking the Bucs where they're strongest, allowing them to hang around. And then the Bucs have actually been slightly tilted to the run this year. Even with Baker's heroics, I would say they're slightly run first team, and they're playing a big run funnel Bills defense in bad weather on the road. So if you allow them to hang around and run the ball, I think they'll probably do it. That's just where I'm like, I wish I was excited about this game environment, and maybe I'm just like too frustrated to see the opportunity here, but that's where I'm at.
I have a Packers pivot there, which is maybe not even what you expect. But what about the quarterback playing the Packers? Jameis Winston, only 4,600. He's going to throw the ball. Any interest? Large field only?
I play the large fields, but yeah, I always have interest in Jameis when he's cheap. I took him in my cage match draft because of the value. Didn't project as well as I thought he might, but I think Jameis. No Darius Slayton, which I would have liked him with Darius Slayton quite a bit, but I think you can just move that to Wan'Dale and Theo Johnson. So yeah, I'm interested.
I can't name a Giants receiver like other than Wan'Dale and and Theo Johnson, right?
Yeah, no, it's Gunnar Olszewski.
Oh wow! Oh, wasn't he like a special teams guy for the Patriots?
I think so. And then Ray McLeod had like but he had fewer. He had 92% route participation 2 weeks ago, and then ran fewer routes than Olszewski last week. So I really don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
I'm not playing any of those
guys. The appeal there is probably Jameis and Wandale and
Wandale. Yeah. I do work with Jameis. I'm like, are we gonna see passing? Like, are you actually gonna pass? Because Jameis over the last 2 years has been worse than Russell Wilson in terms of EPA. He's had negative EPA. It's just volume. Like he's down to chuck it, and they were down to chuck it last year with him on the Browns, but they had like ridiculously high, like that Broncos game where he went nuts. They had, I think, a 75% pass rate. That's what I think so I just don't know. It's actually more of a Kafka question to me than a Winston question. Like, what kind of offense is this? Which I really don't know. So it'd definitely have to be large field. And in that case, like, there is upside because Winston would be happy to throw it all over the yard, but I don't know if they're going to let him or not.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the running game. Neil, we'll go to you. That we've kind of talked about the game and rhymes and the QBs, like for the running game. What stands out to you?
I mean, Jaylen Warren just like clearly stands out in this matchup with Cincinnati. It's the trick that you can go back to every single week. Just play running backs against the Bengals. Jaylen Warren, they've talked about getting him more involved. I think the quote was like, if we make more third downs, he'll get more runs, something like that, which against the Bengals, you would expect they're able to convert more third downs. So yeah, I think
I got good news, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. So Warren looks great. Chase Brown on the other side, also just 5,700 on DraftKings. No Samaje Perine this week. So Brown is going to look great. I think Aaron Jones is in a decent spot against Chicago, and it's just he has looked good with JJ McCarthy. Like JJ targets him. Actually, it hasn't targeted him as much as I've hoped, but like when he does get targets, they've made some nice chunk plays, and he's been more involved as a runner. So at 5,500, I think Aaron Jones looks pretty good. You can obviously go to Christian McCaffrey at the top. Like looks great. We're all playing that game environment. You can stack him up with Brock Purdy if you want to. Rico Dowdle. Great matchup here with the Falcons that they just gave up huge plays to JT last week. I think Rico Dowdle not as likely to do it as Jonathan Taylor, but I think it's a nice spot here for Rico Dowdle. We already talked about Josh Jacobs at 7,800. Looks like a pretty strong play against a bad Giants defense. But then you get into the plays that I want to get to that are getting fairly low ownership. I think Woody Marks is kind of intriguing at 5,400 against that Tennessee defense, like the rare game that the Texans are actually going to be favored, which, maybe that's more of a Chubb game than a Woody Marks game, but I think he's been involved enough and the matchup is good enough that I think at 5,400, he's kind of sneaky. I think Pat already brought up James Cook at single digit ownership. I think James Cook, does have that explosive ability. So I don't mind playing some Cook against the Bucks. And then,
not a guy that like the projection matters as much to me. Like you're betting that he has like a 40-yard touchdown. So he's like kind of a pay up to be contrarian a little bit, but I think it's a smart play.
Yeah. I think those are the main. Kamani Vidal, I like quite a bit. It's not as good of a matchup as I kind of thought it was against Jacksonville. They've been kind of middle of the road, but Kamani Vidal has just had a really strong workload without Omarion Hampton there. So I do like him a bit. And then I'm debating if I want to play either of the Chiefs running backs. We did not see Rashard Smith involved at all last week, but I almost want to play him just in the largest field, or I should say in week 9, he wasn't involved. They had their bye last week, which is kind of why I'm like, maybe at some point they have to consider, like, do we give him the post-bye rookie bump, maybe get Rashard Smith more involved, but that's a large, like Millie Maker type large field contest only, I think is almost viable.
I'll say you touched on my top 6 running backs almost in exact order, and then you got to the guy. I'm like, I hope he doesn't mention Woody Marks, and you're like, okay, one guy I think low ownership, like Woody Marks. But yeah, I don't know, Pat. Which of those guys is appealing to you, or is there anybody else that Neil didn't mention that you think warrants consideration?
I love the Woody Marks call. He was like someone you go through every week, and it's like, oh, same old, not same old in the Texans. Woody Marks had control of that backfield last week in a way that, like, I'm taking note of that. D'Amico Ryans also made some remarks about, these guys aren't rookies anymore. We're in that part of the season. Great. Love to hear that. So I think this is Woody Marks' backfield now. I don't think Woody Marks is that good, which isn't great, but he's going against the Titans, so it doesn't really matter. Simmons is probably out again. He got a limited practice in today. He's just incredible, so he would like shift the matchup slightly, especially with Davis Mills back there. I would like literally think about the matchup a bit differently if he plays. He's defensive tackle 1 in pass rush win rate and pass rush grade. He's awesome. I wish he got to play somewhere where football mattered. But anyway, Woody Marks, I think, is a really strong play at 5,400. Kind of maybe being a week early before people realize that he's the lead back there for real. Did you mention Travis Etienne? I think he's somewhat interesting.
I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, he's never like I'm never excited about him, but I think he's in a decent spot here. And I also feel like if I'm interested in ETN, it must mean that he's in a pretty decent spot because I'm always like, I think I'm biased against him. And the other guy, Josh Jacobs is, I know you mentioned, but he's the cover boy. And I just think like as frustrated as I am with like the Bills and the Packers for like playing this suboptimal way, I don't think that, after the Packers lose, and they have a couple losses now, and there's like Matt LaFleur is being literally asked like, are you playing for your job? He's in the final. Next year he'll be in a contract year, but that means like this year he's basically in a contract year, so like he kind of is playing for his job now. He's gonna get extended, but I think this is like this game, there's something on the line here for the Packers. They have an opportunity to not only win, but like win in the way that they've been trying to play and failing, and it actually working, and they look good. So I think like I'm like this game could like really scratch an itch for a coach who's had to take a ton of crap this week, where he gets to like play his style of football and look awesome. The defense against Jameis Winston, like this, the Packers could roll here. I think this could in a Packers-y type of way, which is really good for Josh Jacobs. So he's the guy I'm going to be prioritizing.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs, 11 rushing touchdowns on the season. I think touchdown in all but one game, and he's facing a Giants defense that allows the second most rushing touchdowns and the second most rushing yards per game in the NFL. So definitely a good setup.
But he's not going to be massive chalk, it looks like. So, it's sort of obvious, but I don't think people are like flocking to it.
Yeah, and he has that been kind of dealing with an injury, and he's not a guy that we necessarily think of as being like this like multifaceted like receiving back, but he's actually been participating in the passing game as well. Yep. So it's like not a thing we should be holding against him. And so yeah, I think he's in a kind of perfect setup. That maybe the price is the thing that people want to spend down at running back. But there are a ton of running backs in this like 5,400 range, like Woody Marks that we mentioned. Like Chase Brown is right there, RJ Harvey, Aaron Jones, like all of these guys.
What are you guys' thoughts on Harvey?
He was a guy that I had a hard time writing a blurb for. I'm like, oh, he's like kind of popping off the page with J.K. Dobbins, presumed out. And then I actually had a hard time like writing the blurb, right? Like that it's like not necessarily a great matchup. Like that he's already a little bit priced up, right? It's like, oh, well, he's been participating in the receiving game for receiving touchdowns on the season, but that actually causes his price to be a little bit inflated already. Like, I think he's good, but it's stiff competition. Like, I would have expected if RJ Harvey was getting the lead role at 5,400, that would be like all over him. But there's like so many, like, do I really like him better than Aaron Jones? Like, then like, finding $300 and getting to Chase Brown, then Woody Marks. I don't know. It's actually like stiff competition, surprisingly, for RJ Harvey.
Do you guys know who? Because this is what I did. I was like, Sean Payton's he's gonna give someone else work. But I went, do you know who the other backs are?
Jaleel McLaughlin, Tyler Beatty.
Yeah.
Or Bidet.
And I'm like, yeah, but we're getting a Terrell Jennings here. They're gonna call someone from the practice squad who's like 240 pounds, right?
Yeah.
Practice squad running back is Deuce Vaughn. Not only is RJ Harvey first of all, he's the tallest running back by about an inch on the other guys. He's only 5'8".
Is that right?
Yeah, and then I actually think McLaughlin is also 5'8", but Bidet I think is 5'7", and Vaughn is 5'6", And then he's got like 10 pounds on McLaughlin, 20 pounds on Bidet. I might have flipped those, and then like 30 pounds on Deuce Vaughn. So like he's their power back now. So it kind of made me a little bit more bullish. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how they don't just give him the ball. Like it's Peyton, so like it wouldn't shock me if like there was a three-way split between him, Bidet, and McLaughlin. It really wouldn't, but it made me slightly more bullish where there isn't that power back that we just don't know about yet lurking.
Yeah, he like just looking through his game log, his like yards per attempt per game is so funny because it's like week 1 versus Tennessee, 11.7 yards per attempt. Yeah, that 150-yard rush, but then it's like 1.6, 1, 4.1.
Yeah.
3, 2, 0, 2.5, 2.3, and they're just like
his
so
success
many games.
rate's awful.
He looks terrible, but then
Yeah.
he'll have those explosive runs, and suddenly that brings it up quite a bit. And I wonder to what extent that is going to be like, dependent on the defense that he's playing at. But ultimately, I think that it just comes down to like, does he have that 1 or 2 runs that he just breaks out and gets past the defenders and scores a touchdown? And I don't love the matchup with the Chiefs because I kind of feel like the Chiefs can keep him in front of them. But yeah, I guess that's what has scared me often. But yeah, I think that he clearly is viable.
Can I get you guys to like just get some input on the mid 5K running backs? Like if you're ranking like Chase Brown, Travis Etienne, RJ Harvey, Aaron Jones, Woody Marks, I guess like Tyrone Tracy. We don't need to go to Tracy. But like
it's Chase Brown by a mile, I think.
I think it's Chase Brown by a mile too. With the
receiving he's going to get all the work. I like the game environment. You can run on Pittsburgh. Like it's he's a smash. Like he's like a straight up running back 1 in my rankings this week. Like he, easy top 10 running back. The other guys, Marks would probably be second, and then Harvey. ETN's kind of in that same mix with Harvey and Marks. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on Harvey. The upside, like as far as like a guy that, could run for a couple touchdowns and look awesome while doing it, like it's Harvey over Marks. So I don't want to, but at the same time, like his success rate's been terrible. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on him, but yeah, it's Chase Brown by a lot.
It's always hard to like do these rankings because it's like when you factor in ownership, like just like in a vacuum, which I guess in a vacuum is kind of like you just look at projections, is generally covers in a vacuum. But then it's like I agree, like Chase Brown is like clearly the best, also the chalkiest by far. So
but
it's
even with the
like,
chalk, I think my favorite's Chase Brown as a chalk piece over the other guys is like semi chalk or semi contrarian, depending on who you look at.
I think that is a reasonable take. I think that's like I'll have the most of Chase Brown. I'll probably be overweight to the field if he's going to be in about a quarter of lineups. So yeah, I think I agree. Chase Brown is the best. I don't think you even mentioned Aaron Jones in there, but I also think that he's kind of in that kind of mix for me. So it's probably Chase Brown number 1 for me, followed by maybe Aaron Jones and then Woody Marks, and then ETN, and then I'm not including the and ETN or Harvey is close. Probably ETN over Harvey for me.
Can I ask you guys about Aaron Jones? Like the thing that I'm struggling with is that 2 weeks ago they're playing the Lions. The defense steps up. They're playing from ahead. Mason has 34% of carries. Jones is at 31%. Then last week, Jones has 71% of the snaps, 50% of the carries. Mason falls at 22%. If the Bears are leading this game and the Vikings are playing from behind, I think Jones is like clearly the guy you want. But I'm a little bit nervous about his ceiling, where like if the Vikings control this game, is he like salting away the game, or is it actually Jordan Mason? Or they're kind of in a split. Is basically like I think positive game script, I think probably helps Mason get more work, which then makes me worried about Jones's ceiling as like a tournament winning type of play. So I've been a little bit lower on him for that reason.
Yeah, I think that is reasonable. I kind of think that the Vikings coaching staff doesn't totally trust Jordan Mason. I think he's sort of fallen out of favor. Like they're not even using him in the goal line role that he was like traded for that reason, it seemed like. So I'm a pretty big Jordan Mason bull. I drafted a ton of him in best ball, but just like watching the games, like, man, they just do not trust him. He hasn't looked that good, to be honest. Whereas Aaron Jones has actually looked pretty good out there. So
he has looked good. Yeah.
I kind of think that they just don't trust Jordan Mason as much. So I think at the worst case scenario, like you said, is probably they're splitting if they have a positive game script. They're just like they're working in Jordan Mason, and maybe it's a 50-50. But I think like Aaron Jones still going to get the receiving work early
For
on,
sure.
and probably a majority of the early work. So yeah, I still think that he's likely to get a fair amount of work here.
We didn't really talk about Vidal in the conversation of these mid-price running backs. I think he might be my second favorite of, just because I think like Chase Brown, I trust him to get the volume. I like Chase Brown's setup a lot more.
Yeah, I like Vidal also. I think I probably also have him. Yeah, I didn't include him because I mean 5,900 that's high. That's high 5,000s. Come on.
Yeah.
But I thought
if it's got a 5.
I wasn't sure. I decided not to include him because it's too high. But yeah, I agree with you. He's right there.
57's in, 59's out. Where's this line?
That's where I drew the
line. Actually, a guy we didn't mention at all. So, like, what about Bijan Robinson? Like, any takers? He's 8,300. So I mean, he's 500 more than Josh Jacobs, but 700 less than Christian McCaffrey. I think he's going to see like absurdly small ownership. Just with Tyler Algier getting like all the red zone touchdowns. But any takers facing Carolina, a Carolina rushing defense we've picked on in years past.
I think it's the same defense. Go ahead.
I think it's pretty sharp. I mean, the narrative, Raheem Morris was like literally called Algier. What did he say? He's like the quietest superstar on our team or something. And you're like, superstar? What? But he also, like 3 weeks ago, said Bijan Robinson is literally the best player in football. So, like, he's just like a nice guy, says nice things about people, So, I don't think we need to freak out. And then they also lost 30-0 to the Panthers. Like, division rival. Like, they definitely have this game circled, right? They've been preparing for this one. So, I think that we could see this flip. Like, we could see the Panthers get dominated here. And we could see the Falcons roll, which would be great for Bijan Robinson. Penix has been like really up and down. He's been awesome in a couple of games. He's awesome against the Bucks. And then whoever they played after the Panthers, I forget now. He was incredible.
Was it the Vikings? It might have been the Vikings.
It might have been the Vikings. Yeah. So, he has had moments. No, it was against the Commanders. It was against the Commanders. He was 98th percentile in EPA play in that game after 3rd percentile the week before. So you don't know what you're going to get week to week with Penix as far as efficiency goes. If he is efficient, and the offense is moving the ball effectively, that's obviously huge for Bijan. The Panthers' pass defense is not good. The run defense is still not good. It's not like the flowchart defense it was last year, but it's still not good. So the narratives are kind of shifted away from Bijan a little bit, but I think if you get him at low ownership, like there's no way to say he doesn't have tournament winning ceiling. He like absolutely does, and he can access it pretty easily. So I like that call.
What would be the ownership number where you guys are interested? Because I'm seeing like 15%, which is where
that's where I'm interested. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that seems like high to me. I don't know if it'll really, because like these 5K-ish, up to 6K or 5,900 running backs are so appealing that I could see people, and like then with like Jalen Warren, Chase, I mean at 6,100. I think there's so many guys there. I think RJ Harvey is going to get some attention, right, as the running back that is mentally elevated in our heads with the J.K. Dobbins going down.
You also have like Jacobs and Dowdle, which is 78 and 68. Yeah. So like as you move up from the mid range, there's like, oh, I like this guy here. I like this guy here. So I think it's going to be tough. And then you also have McCaffrey at 9. So if you are paying up, he's so locked in. So yeah, I agree. I think he might get a little bit lost.
So yeah, and we'll say that I think some of the reason the mid-range running backs are looking so appealing is they're good, expensive wide receivers we want to pay up to. So we'll transition there, and Pat, we'll start with you. I think that among the higher owned wide receivers this week, we're seeing Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, JSN, but it's hard to differentiate between the three. I think I'll start with Jamar Chase. I think he's probably the one that pops off the page with the recent Joe Flacco success. But I'll let you take it from here. Like, what wide receivers do you like?
I mean, I do like Jamar Chase. He'll be the most owned of them, but for good reason. Justin Jefferson, I think, is pretty interesting. If you are going to go back to McCarthy, I want it to be with Jefferson. I think I wrote up play action is a potential is something that the Vikings might be able to kind of ramp up this week against the Chicago defense. That's a good way to attack there, and that should help Justin Jefferson. His targets per out run is a bit up with McCarthy, yards per out run on play action, and it should help like consolidate targets to the receivers a little bit. Like on top of McCarthy not looking appealing to my eyes as I watched him tank my lineups, he was also throwing to Jalen Naylor. It's like, come on, man, at least throw to Jefferson. But I think, this week could be, maybe I was just a week too early on the McCarthy Jefferson stuff. So he's interesting. Tedero and McMillan, I think is in play at 5,600. This is a Panthers team that just like really does not want to pass the ball. But McMillan, if you look at like target share, per route, like anything that like doesn't know that the Panthers don't pass, anything that's like a share or a rate as opposed to just like a per game number, he looks awesome. And so what if the Falcons at home, having just gotten crushed by this team, they come out and dominate, and the Panthers probably not until late in the fourth quarter decide they have to pass the ball, and we get a little bit of an uptick in drop back volume for McMillan. That would be huge. Rashee Rice, I think is really fun here. And then, I think that going to Puka, going to JSN, these target dominant wide receivers in tough matchups, I still think is very much in play. And then I guess the one question I have is Brian Thomas going to play? Because if not, the Jaguars receivers are a little interesting, especially Parker Washington, I think.
Yeah, Parker Washington was one of the chalkier guys last week. That's the guy that ended up in my lineup, and I think brought in Davis Mills and Nico Collins, which gave me a sweat in the millie maker. But yeah, Neil, your thoughts on the wideouts?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to point out Justin Jefferson was targeted 12 times last week. So
not enough.
We're complaining about him not being targeted enough. Yeah,
come on, JJ.
Agreed. He should. It's funny because you say like, "Come on, just target Justin Jefferson." And my takeaway from the game was like, I like that he's just throwing it. I guess as you would say, at Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
not up to Justin Jefferson.
I guess the targets. I need them to be catchable. The only
like
good pass, like, oh, that's a good pass, and it would be to Naylor. Yeah, little arc,
yeah,
please.
Okay. So maybe maybe he learns that this week. Like, okay,
go work out with
it.
Russell Wilson.
You need to throw it to Justin Jefferson, not at Justin Jefferson. You're going to look a lot better. Yeah. But again, Justin Jefferson like tripped on one of them that he just one that he did actually kind of moonball it. Jefferson tripped, and then it was an interception because there was just the cornerback by himself back there.
Were you worried about his effort on the tackle there?
Not really. I don't need Justin Jefferson tackling the defenders.
I wasn't worried about it either.
Yeah. So I am still in on Justin Jefferson. I also like Jordan Addison, who was targeted 11 times last week as well. Like they have not connected at all. Like JJ with Jordan Addison has not looked good, but it was promising to see 11 targets last week. I think at some point they're going to start connecting on some of these. Just need to like get the ball snowballing a little bit.
I think once they trade for Mac Jones, they'll connect.
Oh God. Please no. Come on. I'm still holding that hope for JJ McCarthy. So yeah, I do like my Minnesota Vikings. I'm also a homer. I should make sure everybody knows I'm a Vikings fan, so I am biased when it comes to the Vikings. But I'm unbiased when it comes to JSN, Puka. Both obviously look great. Jamar Chase, I think looks better than either of them at 8,500. A little bit of a price discount. So I think those three stand out as great plays. I'm kind of into Emeka Egbuka at 7,200, but particularly when I play that game environment, like if I do play Josh Allen, I like having Emeka Egbuka on the other side. I don't know who to like from the Chargers. I think QJ is currently listed as questionable. I think Ladd, I haven't seen an update on Ladd, which I think to me means he's probably going to be a full go. But we're going to have to see who's available there. But it sounds like Oronde Gadsden's back. So I guess if we have everybody, I will probably lean toward Ladd at 6,500 as a fairly strong play there. I was going to be excited about QJ if Oronde Gadsden was out. He is just 5,000, so I still think probably playable. Juwan Jennings, 5,100 with Purdy back looks good.
Yep.
We talked about Wandale as part of the, if you're playing James, you can go there. I also kind of like the other side of that game. Romeo Dobbs, I know we're excited to go to Josh Jacobs, and I think as Pat said, they could just win in the most Packers way and just run the ball a lot. But Dobbs is only 5,000, fairly involved. But I'm even more intrigued by Christian Watson at 4,400, getting like virtually no ownership. Like he's been out there. He's capable of the big plays. So I think for large field tournaments, Christian Watson looks pretty fun.
If Golden is out, which I think maybe he will be, I really think Watson is interesting. He's ramping up in routes, and he's been really good against man in the past. This year, like, he's coming back from the ACL. We don't really have that much of a sample, but Giants play a lot of man. They've allowed big plays downfield. So I think he's a really good call.
How much does Golden, like if Golden is active, how much would that worry you for Christian Watson? How much that cut into it?
It worries me a little bit because Golden, like I'm already worried about route participation for these guys. Like I could see if Golden's back, Watson, who's been ramping up, drops back, and he's like in the 70% route participation range now. And I'm like, my whole play comes down to like a couple targets probably with Watson. And what if he's not on the field for when those targets would have occurred, So yeah, it definitely concerns me if Golden's. I'm probably moving off the play for DFS purposes if Golden plays, just because I'm like, it starts to feel really thin. But again, I'm thinking more for like, kind of smaller field stuff. So
okay.
One guy neither of you mentioned, Drake London, facing the Panthers. Any interest there? London averaging 106 receiving yards with 6 touchdowns over his past 5 games.
It's funny you keep mentioning these Falcons, and early in the year when this matchup happened, I played all the Falcons. I think I went to Tyler Algier, who put up a 0. It was like that was my Galaxy Rim plays going. It's like, oh, I just want to attack the Panthers, and now I'm like,
Bijan was the cover boy. The
then,
walkthrough was named Bijan Robinson Rocket Ship in a game that the Falcons lost 30-0.
Yeah,
so I'm right there with you.
So we're probably overreacting. So you're probably smart to bring up all the like, and the projections actually look good for both Bijan and Drake London. They kind of pop from a like point per dollar standpoint. So yeah, I'm not excited about it. I think I was just burned too badly the last time that now I just I don't want to do it. But yeah, I think that it's probably a short play.
And then
I like Bijan more than London, where I think we can trust that the Panthers will be run heavy in this game. You can run on the Falcons. They have a difficult pass defense. It's the Panthers. And so like the Falcons need to push the Panthers. I don't think the Panthers are really going to push the Falcons a ton unless they just run all over them. I mean, they did win 30-0, so it's possible. But I just feel a lot more comfortable with the running game on the Falcons side.
One more wide receiver issue or question. We should at least address the Arizona wide receiver situation. Marvin Harrison out with an injury. I think it's an appendix. But that came about after pricing. So we were getting a discount on like Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch. I think Dortch has not even had a target the last couple of weeks, but he participates in the rushing game. But like Michael Wilson might be the RB, like the wide receiver 1. Or at least the wide receiver with the most targets. Of course, like Trey McBride is still there. Is like Michael Wilson a trap? Is Dortch playable? Any thoughts on the Cardinals?
Yeah, Michael Wilson looks like a very strong value play, possibly cash game viable. I'm not sure if he's a cash game play, but I think that he's a strong play in a game environment that we like, where we don't have many options that we love on the Cardinals.
Yeah, I when I wrote the walkthrough, I had Zay. I was like, I guess Zay Jones will take over on the outside. He's actually on IR, so that was wrong. But the Greg Dortch is a slot. So I'm not sure that Dortch sees like some huge uptick in playing time this week. Xavier Weaver is another guy they have on the roster, like Andre Bocellia. I don't know. Like, I think we learn names on the outside. I don't think we get Greg Dortch, who's a tiny little man. He's 5'7", 180. He's a pure slot. I don't think we get him taking over Marvin Harrison's like X wide receiver role, right? Maybe Wilson takes over some of that, and then they slide someone else in as more but it's an outside wide receiver role that has opened up. I think they will play someone who plays on the outside. So Dortch, I don't have it. Now, maybe Dortch gets more targets because the outside wide receivers can't get open. But honestly, I think it's all just like really good for Trey McBride, who can like just absolutely smash here. McBride will get to tight end, but that's the main takeaway. And my secondary takeaway is like they really need Michael Wilson to step up here. So I think he's an okay play. If I'm chasing the cheap Arizona wide receivers, I don't even want to think about past Wilson, to be honest. And I think Wilson is solid.
That transition us right into tight end. So Neil, we'll start with you. Is it a Trey McBride flowchart week? Just play Trey McBride.
I could see the excitement on John's face when Pat brought up the seamless transition to tight ends. John was like, yes, that was exactly what I wanted. Yeah, Trey McBride. It's absolutely a Trey McBride flow chart. Like he looks so much better than everybody else with no Marvin Harrison. So yes, McBride looks awesome. I also think it's kind of like McBride and then a step down. Actually, there are two in the step down for me. I really like both of George Kittle with Brock Purdy back. Like we've been waiting for Kittle with Purdy. He's 5,000, nice price. I think he looks great. But I think Oronde Gadsden at 4,600. Now that we know he's playing, I think Gadsden has just been awesome since he's kind of taken over that role. So to me, it's kind of a big 3 at tight end with those 3. And then beyond that, it is kind of a play whoever you want fits in your stacks. I'm like, I want to be excited about the Pittsburgh tight ends, and I kind of am, but I can't figure out which one I like better between Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth. I think it's Jonnu for me, but I'd like to hear if you guys have opinions on those. But it's really the big 3. The Pittsburgh are intriguing to me, and then it's going to be probably just within my game stacks. I also want to say I think Andre Bocelli is an opera singer. Is that not? Pat named him as a wide receiver on the Cardinals, but I'm pretty sure
he's career change.
That's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, he's I don't know. I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sure, but he's from Washington, 180 pounds, 5'10". He's 28 years old. He's been in the league a little while, it looks like. I've never heard.
Older too. Okay, interesting.
Also, he's good. He's a good singer. Great voice.
Yeah. Pat, on that note, any other opera singers you want to bring up?
No, I think
we're tight ends.
I think I've got tight end. Yeah, tight ends. I have a couple. I don't really have a couple. I think it is like it's McBride. I don't like who are we punting with? You know, like there's like no one that kind of jumps out to me as an underpriced guy down here. I mean, maybe like Mark Andrews is only 3,500 now. Could always catch a touchdown. Evan Ingram is 3,500. He had I think 71% route participation last week, which was nice. He's been in the part-time role for a while, but it seems like maybe he's ticking up. But at the same time, I don't necessarily trust that yet. So yeah, there's just not a lot of dudes. I mean, Harold Fannin is 38. You could do that. But yeah, I mean the Jonnu I think plays more and is 2,900 plays more than Freiermuth. I mean, but I like Freiermuth more as a player. And he's 3,200. So I have that same kind of, I don't know who to play in Pittsburgh. I think either of those guys could end up being a really good play. Dalton Schultz is 3,900, but he was DNP to start the week. So I don't know if he goes. Nico Collins, by the way, would be a little bit more interesting if he's out because they just have to target the crap out of him. But yeah, I think McBride, like even as a chalky $6,300 tight end, he's their number 1 wide receiver. Like he's a wide receiver. He's going to get, he had 13 targets last week. He could easily top that this week. So, I mean, he's not a tight end. You get to play. I mean, like if he was he kind of belongs up with these these expensive wide receivers this week, in a PPR scoring. Like, I mean, it's like 7,900 for Rashee Rice or 6,800 for Trey McBride. Kind of want McBride.
I'll say, since we made jokes about Trey McBride not scoring touchdowns even in high school, he's got 5 over the last 4 weeks. Scored one.
He's nonstop in the end zone now.
Yeah. So yeah, something to consider. Like, oh, he does everything except score touchdowns, and now he's got 5 touchdowns in 4 games. Like, well, maybe he just does everything. So that's something to think about. I'll say, like, maybe I'll throw a name, just Theo Johnson. I know we already mentioned him. But like if Jameis Winston is going to be throwing the ball all over, he's like 4,100, but still, I'd probably rather find the $2,200 and get to, and get to Trey McBride. I think George Kittle is a good play. Like probably going to do more, with the rest of the season than he's done so far. But really, yeah, like if you look at Trey McBride as a $6,300 wide receiver, like we'd be going berserk, and like maybe we should be going berserk at the at the tight end position with Trey McBride.
I did want to mention, because if Dalton Schultz is out, they've had injuries to Brevin Jordan and Kate Stover, so I was looking into their backup, and it's Luciano Pavarotti, who I wasn't.
Perfect. Yeah,
that's great.
All right. On that note, any final thoughts on the week?
No, I don't think. I do think it is a game stacking week. Like I'll be game stacking because I think that there are big like game environments that could go completely off. So I guess that is once again one of those weeks for me.
This is the exact same way we closed the show last week, I think. Whereas any final thoughts? And you said I think it's a week to make sure your game stacking is like that's what I was going to say if you didn't say it. Pat, any closing thoughts?
No, I'm good.
All right. I'm good. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll hopefully see you at the top of the leaderboards on Sunday. Good luck to everybody, and we will catch you next week.